Amazing. Well, it's great to be here, and I hope you're enjoying the session so far. And I'm so excited to be here with Fee Morgan,
know,
Sail
again.
GP. Exactly. Well, last week we talked about what you're doing. And this week we're here at Blue Earth Summit, which is absolutely fantastic. But before we start, we'll have a short video just to introduce what Sail GP is all about. Amazing. So let's learn more about Sail GP. I mean, this session is called Ocean Racing Powered by Purpose. And Fee Morgan here with me, Chief Purpose Officer. And of course, we're going to talk about purpose a lot today. Just very briefly, I'm Martin Koehring, Global Director of Impact at the International Sustainability Nonprofit Forum for the Future. If you haven't heard about Forum for the Future, it's all about systems change. And you will have heard a lot the word systems and integrating what we do and creating impact, but can only be done within systems, and really working on that transformation, accelerating transformation through systems change, but also looking into the future, and that's what it's really all about here at Blue Earth Summit, purpose-led business, and really looking at how business can be a force for transformation. And that's something that we are very passionate about at Forum for the Future as well. So I'm very excited to be here to talk about what Sail GP is doing and how sailing and sports can be an inspiration for change, really creating impact and purpose. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about Sail GP and how Fee, you're creating impact through your role as Chief Purpose Officer. So what is it really about? How would you define your role, Chief Purpose Officer?
I know, it's an exciting role, but going back to Sail GP, we are like Formula One on the water, but more sustainable. Exciting racing, nation versus nation, and we go around the world, iconic locations and inshore, so you can watch the racing. The boats go 100 kilometers an hour, and we have female athletes, so we really are trying to be the best product, kind of the pinnacle of sailing. We call it racing, redefining even how you call it, as well as being sustainable. We're only in season 4, so we're kind of a baby sport, a bit like Formula E, Extreme E, these new challenger sports that are kind of set up to be different. So that's why I'm here. So Chief Purpose Officer in sport, I think people always think, what is that? What does she actually do? It's a very valuable role, and my role looks across the business, social and environmental sustainability, reputation, brand. What are we doing to give back? Kind of the discussion today was about being a responsible or regenerating business. What's sport doing? If you don't have someone sitting at senior management pushing the sport to think differently, they're not going to do it. Sport is historical issues with where you race, who's your sponsor. So I sit at the management team and try to make us make more informed decisions and look at our positive impact, not just economic impact.
Fantastic, and sports is such a tangible way of, for people to relate to, and then seeing the impact that can be done, and the purpose-led drive that you are spearheading is absolutely fantastic. But let's also talk a little bit about you and your background, because previously you worked at Sky Ocean Rescue, right? So how has that kind of influenced what you're doing now at Sail GP?
Yeah, gosh, I loved Sky, and this morning Hugo and BBC were talking about kind of plastic pollution back in 2016, when I think we really kind of trailblazed consumers and telling them about oceans. So that was my past, and it was such an incredible campaign. I'm really proud of what we achieved, the behavior change, also the investments. We had Sky Ocean Ventures, which invested 25 million in ocean innovation, which you'll see some of our innovations winning Earthshot prizes now. So it really was a kind of well-rounded campaign for the ocean, and something that is close to my heart now here at Sail GP. But what I probably learned there is a lot around behavior change. I think we all talk about marketing and using the power of sport for good, but to be honest, that's not going to work if it's not baked in behavior change. Like, how are you actually changing mindsets?
Absolutely, and I mean, in a previous role, I worked at The Economist, or World Ocean Initiative, and having that kind of initial kind of seed funding and having that
Yeah.
level of confidence can really then
Oh,
create.
massively gross.
It's
And
so
even
important.
giving them brand help, like accounting, like they were so small, they had no idea where to start. And having an
Absolutely.
infrastructure like Sky behind these small companies was just incredible. And it was really lovely to be on the journey with
Exactly.
these companies.
And as you said, it can really kind of start that mindset shift because once you've got investors in the finance industry interested in
Everything
something,
seems possible.
everything is possible.
Yeah.
There are no limits. Literally, the sky is the
Yeah,
limit.
is the limit.
So, to what extent do you now kind of work with other decision makers? Just going back to your role now as Chief Purpose Officer at Sail GP. I mean, how important is it to work, across the organization? And who are the key decision makers that you are dealing with, and how do you engage them?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's the same in every sector, but in sport you have to be at the senior leadership team. So I report to the CEO, who is an ex-America's Cup sailor. So working for a professional athlete is a lot of fun. It's very busy. But you have to sit at that level that you really are influencing change. Everyone at Sail GP is a stakeholder. Everyone has to have purpose in their role, embed it in the way they do. Our management team all have carbon targets. They have carbon targets, they have purpose KPIs, and I suppose my job in my role, like Chief Sustainability Officer, is to embed it and get other people to deliver operationally for them. So yeah, very integrated into everything we do. And I would say probably on the leadership team, the role that sits across every area to who we hire, where we race, what merchandise we buy, kind of sitting across every decision of the company.
Absolutely.
Which is quite tiring, but good.
Yeah. And it's great that you have that direct link with the CEO,
Yep.
and that you're fully embedded in those decision makings, processes in the organization. And of course, there's this question now around how do you then kind of innovate, and how do you actually bring kind of marine innovation forward? And we've heard this in other sessions as well today, is that huge opportunity to innovate in the ocean space and unlocking these kind of opportunities for real impact through innovation. So what is Sail GP doing kind of to introduce some kind of new innovations? I know you've got this amazing new kind of plastic-free sportswear now as well,
Yeah.
right? So
Good
what are
life.
those kind of innovations?
Yeah, so firstly, talking about today, we've launched our first plastic-free technical sportswear, working with Shan Sutherland from A Plastic Planet and Mover. So go out and buy it. It's on our website. It's the first plastic-free. We don't have zips. We looked at every detail. It's taken us 2 years to get this product to market. And hopefully other sportswear brands can see that and use the kind of natural materials we are. I think sport, look at football shirts. Do we need 15 football shirts a season? So there's a whole big kind of movement in sport about merchandise waste and looking at the materials. So that's today's innovation around merchandise. But marine innovation. So I suppose my biggest headache at Sail GP is not our boats. I mean, they are made by carbon fiber, but they're powered by nature and they're recycled boats. We bought them from the America's Cup. But actually, I don't know if you saw a picture there of the boats. Around the boats, there's a huge infrastructure, obviously, of chase boats, media boats, hospitality boats, helicopters. You can't take the helicopters out because you have to have our broadcast technology that's too heavy for a drone. It's a real complex and the most difficult issue in my world. You would think powering events, in Bermuda is hard. On water transition is so hard. So the marine industry is, I would say, 15 years behind the automotive industry. So no one's really driving technology, legislation, no one knows when's coming in. So we've had to kind of take it in our own hands and try to do that ourselves. So everything from looking at how do you take boats off the water. So we were the first sport to do remote broadcast operations. That's done in London, so that saves 100 people traveling. Our umpires are not at the race. They are in London too. And that's quite crazy to think that you're better at umpiring, not actually at a race, but in London. And that saves a huge amount of emissions over the season. We're now doing remote coaches. So some of our coaches, 50% probably the coaches won't travel. They'll either be on shore or they'll be at home coaching online because we have to reduce our travel footprint. Everything from our race marks. I don't know if there are any sailors in the room, but race marks are not sustainable. So obviously they're anchored and they're powered. They're chase boats, petrol chase boats take them out. We've created our own sustainable race marks with Mark Set Bot. And we know that then will shift and influence the sailing industry because if we can make them and prove they work at our race, they can go anywhere. We want to make the new chase boat of tomorrow, like the Coast Guard boat of tomorrow, but it requires a huge investment. So we're looking at that. That's the next big project. and we're getting quite involved in sustainable foiling and shipping. So watch this space. So again, tackle these problems. Don't say they're too difficult. Someone else is going to solve it, because unfortunately no one is. So yeah, we're definitely looking at every area of our marine footprint and what we can do.
And you can't wait for the legislation. I mean, it will happen ultimately.
Wish it would
anyway,
happen
so.
sooner. It'd make my life easier, to be honest. But yeah, you're right. And I suppose we took talent in. I took a chemical engineer from Formula E, help to look at this problem. Because again, automotive, we can learn from that and get better. Because in marine, everyone's a bit complacent about, oh, well, the boats will be 5 years' time. We'll have a think about, our targets and our carbon emissions can't wait.
And being a pioneer in a way can be an advantage as well, because you can kind of set kind of the standards. You can be the one that everyone looks to in terms of as a model. And you mentioned something that's also really important, which is kind of driving that impact beyond your organization, but really influencing the wider sailing and even the sports industry. So how would you say you are driving that impact and that purpose within your wider community in sailing?
Yeah, being a startup sport, you can kind of do it differently. You don't have the heritage. We don't have the same commercial restrictions as some of the bigger sports. So we can we're not scared to fail. And we can do things differently. So I think that point of leadership, which I think you just saw the Impact League trophy. I don't know any sports in the world that would be brave or stupid enough to have a trophy for the planet. Look at how are your athletes traveling to event, giving them deducting points if they go in business class. What are they eating? You really, we're kind of owning it and creating these different behavioral models around our athletes. And I do feel lucky at Sail GP we can do that. And the amount of other sports that ask us for help is incredible, because I think, their commercial team are a bit scared of sustainability, so they don't want to really talk about it. And we're trying to be quite authentic and honest about the challenges and what we're doing. So motorsport, golf, NASCAR the other day called me out of the blue just saying, help, I've got this problem. So I think, again, being, Ocean's your racetrack, you're authentic, people like our bravery and our concept. So we're definitely inspiring multiple of global sports as well as sailing. So we want to kind of change the sailing ecosystem.
Yes, absolutely.
As well.
And you mentioned those kind of transferable skills, those transferable learnings that other sports like motorsport, golf, and so on can learn from. You can learn.
And we can learn from them too. It's kind of saying, what can you do together? And I think sport is very competitive, as we all know. But one topic, and what I learned in Sky Ocean Rescue, is sustainability can kind of stop that competition. We had all the Premier League clubs doing a pass on plastic, single-use plastic project in the same room, collaborating, actually sharing suppliers in the end, which would never happen. So I think sports have realized there's commercial competition, but actually we all need to be efficient and work together, because we all have very similar problems. Fan travel, materials, carbon fiber. A lot of sport equipment is made out of carbon fiber, like our boats.